Marketer of the Day, episode 526. The world needs your book. Build a funnel, run a book launch, and tap into new Amazon publishing resources. With Monica Leonelle.
Hey everyone, and thanks for listening to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We're talking with Monica Leonelle, and her website is prosonfire.com, and she writes fiction, she writes nonfiction, she has a business column, and she's going to tell us what we need to know to get some stuff written, to get some stuff published, to make some sales, and whatever else comes up. So, Monica, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you. And so as far as, I know that we just said that before the call started, you just got back from a really cool vacation and now getting settled back into your business. So as far as your business goes, I mean, how's that going lately? What's been on your mind these days?
Well, so my business, Pros on Fire, I'm actually moving it to a new brand called The World Needs Your Book. And so that's at theworldneedsyourbook.com. And it's just a lot of work. So I have a bunch of books out right now, and they're primarily geared toward helping fiction authors write their own books. And so they're really like aimed at that specific target audience. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking a lot of those books, I'm rebranding them to the new brand, and also expanding the content in them to include stuff for nonfiction authors, memoirists, other people who are looking for, like, how do I structure my nonfiction book for addictive readers and sales and all that good stuff. So that's been a really big project, and I'm kind of still just in the middle of it, I guess, and trying to move stuff around. And I think it's just going to be a long-term thing. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Super cool. So, I mean, as far as the, so you like cranking out your books, do you know offhand, like how many are, what percentage are like fiction and nonfiction, things like that?
Yeah, I would say it's close to probably like half and half in terms of word count, maybe. Or no, probably more on the fiction side in terms of word count. So what I have right now is I have 7 nonfiction books that are aimed toward writers. And so those are the ones that I'm redoing and expanding and relaunching. And then I have... oh gosh, like I've kind of lost count on the fiction side, but I have 2 different pen names. One is an urban fantasy pen name, and I mostly write young adult under that. And then the other is a romance pen name. So that's unfortunately one that I haven't really touched for a couple years at this point, but it has, 11 or 12 books underneath it.
Awesome. So even though you haven't touched some things in a while, I mean, it sounds like you're really good at cranking some of these things out. And I mean, as far as the writing goes, like I myself have only like 10 nonfiction books, and I always feel bad because I'll get like memories on Facebook coming up. Like something came up this morning and it said, here's a memory from 2 years ago when you published this audiobook that you'd previously written. And I was thinking, geez, the time just gets away from us so fast. And whenever I have like authors, writers on this show, it seems like they all have like a really good like structure, discipline, routine. They always make sure to set aside time for, for editing or beefing up the books like you're doing, or they set aside time in the morning all the time to write. So do you have things like that? Do you have like some sort of a structure to make sure that you're staying on the ball and always, pushing forward with this author stuff?
Well, I mean, first, I just want to congratulate you. I think 10 books is a lot, actually. So that's great. So then, yeah, I would say I'm actually more of a burst of energy type of writer. So I think that there are lots of people who do like a very structured routine. Like, they're like, oh, I write 1,000 words every weekday or whatever, which is great. And so that's a type of writer that I would call a slow and steady writer. I have tried the slow and steady way. Personally, I'm more of a burst of energy type of writer. And so, what that means, basically, for example, last year in 2017, I published 9 books, but I did it between January and June 30th.
Oh, wow.
So my last book came out on June 28th. And then for the second half of the year, I actually didn't publish any books. Which, is not ideal, I guess. But, I was still writing, but I was working on some of my digital courses. So I did a ton of writing and like scripting out stuff and slides and emails and all that stuff. But it was it was not for the books. So that's kind of my structure. I'm about to start, like I said, I'm redoing all of these books. So I'm about to start another big push for about 5 to 6 months where I try to get a bunch of stuff done in terms of books, I mean. And I mean, other than that, I pretty much, I really live by like my pre-order deadlines. So what I do is I'll get the cover and like some of the other stuff together and set my pre-order up. And then I have then I have to kind of work backwards and be like, okay, I got to get the draft done by this date. I have to have the editing done by this date. And it is a little bit more stressful, but for me, I tend to need that external deadline. Now, I don't recommend that for most, I don't recommend that for a lot of authors who are just starting out, because I have a really good idea of how long a book takes me to write. So you really need to know like how many words you can do per day. And like, you need to have that, all that data kind of established so you can hit the deadline. Because I've seen a lot of people lose their pre-order status on Amazon and other places just because they set a deadline and then they weren't able to hit it.
Okay, well, this is giving me renewed hope now because see, all this time, like I think my personality is more similar to yours, where I like to just like focus on one thing for a couple of weeks and then just only do that and then kind of neglect everything else. But then once that's done, pick up the other stuff that's happening there. And so one thing that really got my attention is this whole pre-order thing, because I have to admit the only with all these 10 books, the only way I've published things is I wrote the book first and then got the cover and then went in and published it all. But how does this like pre-order thing work? I have to admit, I have no idea at all.
Yeah, so a number of retailers have come out with pre-order abilities in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. So I don't know where you publish, but if you publish on iBooks, for example, that I think it's like you can do a pre-order up to a year in advance. And then the great thing about the pre-order is you can start collecting those pre-sales. You can do pre-sales. On Amazon, it's really similar. Well, it's not really similar. I should say it's I think it's like a 3-month pre-order. So you can do up to 3 months. So, and then I think there's like a limit on the number of books that you can do. And so, yeah, so I'm trying to think, there's another retailer called Kobo that distributes to Canada. It's kind of a similar thing. So I don't know how you do your publishing, but yeah, you can absolutely do that.
Well, I'm a little ashamed to admit that when I do my publishing, I just do it direct with Amazon. And so I imagine that maybe when I fill in that form, instead of saying it's live now, that there's a way to maybe set a date in the future.
Yeah.
Think?
Yeah, that's how it works. So you can either say like make this book available now, or you can say set the release date is basically what it is. And so then I think it lets you go up to 3 months out. It may be 6 months now, I'm not really sure. And then since you only publish through Amazon, I would really recommend another service like Draft to Digital. I don't know if you can do pre-orders through there, but they will distribute to other platforms like iBooks, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, a bunch of other places, which is really like, that's just like extra sales, like extra opportunities for somebody to buy your ebook.
So we mentioned publishing directly to, KDP and CreateSpace versus iBooks and Kobo and Draft to Digital. So like, how do we choose which to use? Like, why would we use iBooks instead of directly to Amazon? Or why would we use Draft to Digital, for example?
Well, it's not really choosing between them. It's really, it's basically like additional. So with Amazon, that's one platform, and it's certainly the biggest platform. So it's great that that's like a great place to publish. And most people, if they're only publishing one place, it would be Amazon. So then if you're not in the Kindle Unlimited program, so Kindle Unlimited is it's an exclusive program. So if you're in that one, you cannot publish to all these other platforms. But if you're not in that, then you can use, so you can either go direct with some of these places like iBooks, Kobo, Google Play, Barnes & Noble. I think they all have direct. There might be a couple other ones, but those are kind of the bigger, I guess, like wide platforms is what they're called. but then you could also use a service like Draft to Digital. And so Draft to Digital, what it would do is you would upload the book. So you'd upload your book to Amazon, but then you'd upload your book as well to Draft to Digital, and Draft to Digital could distribute it to all those other places. So I mean, I think the downsides to it are, you can't do it if you're exclusive to Amazon, but then also it's just a little extra work to maintain. Like you have to learn all these new systems, create like new accounts. So that, that is extra effort. But then once it's up there, I mean, you know how ebooks are, that can just sell on its own, or you might have to do some marketing on it, whatever it might be, but it's at least available in multiple places.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, everything has a learning curve, but you only have to figure it out once, and then you go back and publish more books, or you tweak the marketing on your existing books, and it's like you only had to learn that once. And so so do you recommend that maybe people like mix and match? Like, do you recommend that people publish some things on Kindle Unlimited and then some other books on these platforms, or do you prefer one over the other?
I like personally, I would use as many platforms as possible. So you're right. Each platform does have a learning curve, and definitely it's much, much easier, on your second or third book on that platform, because you've kind of gotten into your groove. And then if like doing it on all these different platforms is just way too much administration work for you, then, Draft to Digital is a great example. There are a couple other ones. So like Smashwords is another one. And there's been one that I think it shut down, so I won't say that one, but they're kind of like they're basically like a kind of one-stop shop to like help you out. So if you're like, I don't want to publish to like 6 different platforms, you could say, okay, I'm just going to publish to Amazon and then to Draft to Digital. And Draft to Digital will publish to all these other ones. And they take like a small percentage. And I can't remember what the percentage is, but it's like, it's just like a fraction of it. And then that cuts down on your admin work. So I would not recommend a mix unless you're going to go exclusive with Amazon. So, and there are benefits to going exclusive with Amazon, because then you can get the page reads. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Kindle Unlimited program, it lets you like loan out your book to Amazon members, and you get paid a really small amount per page read. But, when you add up like thousands of page reads, then that can be significant and substantial income as well.
Yeah, and that seems to be the book model and the online book model in general, right? Like you make a little bit per book, but it adds up to a lot. And so if I'm understanding you correctly, if you publish on Draft to Digital, you're not forced to propagate to these other platforms, because I have to admit that is what held me back from a lot of these other things, because I was worried that, okay, I published on Amazon first. If I go and check out like iBooks or something else, I was concerned that I would end up with duplicates. So is what you're saying that it's okay if we publish on Amazon first, but then if we go to Draft to Digital or something, then we can pick and choose where it copies to, so that way we aren't stuck with duplicates listings of our book. Is that on the right track?
Yeah, and just to be clear, iBooks and Amazon, they don't cross-publish to each other. So iBooks is Apple's, so it's like iTunes, right? Or it's like the book version of iTunes, I guess, but it's Apple's platform. So Apple and Amazon, they're not really friends, so they don't cross-publish to each other. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. And then the way Draft to Digital works is you can upload your book there, and then it's like a checkbox. So you would say like, okay, I want my book to be distributed to Barnes Noble, or I want my book to be distributed to Kobo or wherever. And these platforms, like I said, they don't cross-publish to each other. The reason that people publish to Amazon kind of separately from, using like an aggregator for all these other platforms is because Amazon doesn't really let people aggregate, basically. So pretty much to be able to publish, you typically have to go direct. And Amazon kind of makes it so that you're forced to go direct with them, because they're the biggest game in town. So they're able to do that, basically.
Yeah, they can set the rules because they're number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all these great places where we can get our book published that maybe we hadn't thought about before. And then once the book is published, do you have any favorite methods for selling the book? Like, do you like Facebook groups, book launch? Do you have like kind of like a team of reviewers? Like, what are your favorite methods for getting some eyeballs on these books?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really big question, because there's so many different opportunities. So, I mean, definitely, like, I think the first thing is definitely try to do a good book launch. And the reason is because, and what that means is basically, when the book is first released, that's when it has the most juice in Amazon's algorithms. So getting eyeballs on it in that first, like, couple weeks or first month is really good to drive the visibility up on Amazon. And so that's just the way Amazon's algorithm works. It, at least right now, it very much favors a book that's very successful out of the gate. So that's number one, because that can really kind of, if you can get that right, then that can really increase your visibility for like several months on Amazon and kind of get the book rolling. After that, I think it really comes down to just putting like basically evergreen marketing into place. And the way I think of that is really having that customer experience mapped out so that like, okay, how do I get a stranger to become even like interested in checking out my book? So like a stranger to a lead, that's basically that transition. And then it's like, what marketing do I need to get a stranger to a lead? And you can kind of think through that. And so it may be like you can do a lot of things. It may be a Facebook ad that's like, hey, do you love Twilight? If you do, you might also be interested in this young adult vampire romance book. Click to get more details or something. So that's a really simple transition to get someone from that stranger to the lead. And then you just kind of keep working your way down. So like you would go lead to prospect. So that's somebody who is interested in your book, but kind of passively, and like then move them to how they're like looking for information on the book. And then prospect to like a trial. So like, how do you get someone who's like who's like now actively interested in your book? How do you get them to try out your book? So you might have you could still have a Facebook ad or whatever, but the messaging around that might be like, if you're interested in this book, before you buy, try the first 3 chapters for free. And so then there's like a little download link and they can go download those first few chapters and then so on. Like, how do you get that person from the trial to the sales page? How do you get that person from the sales page to like they actually bought the book? How do you get that person who bought the book to read the book? And that's like one step that people don't really think about very much, because they're like, oh, great, I got the sale. But that initial sale is really like the smallest value, because that's one sale. Whereas if you get the sale and then you get that person to read the book and then that person loves the book, then they can do a review where then like, thousands of people see that review and that might create more sales. Or then they could like tell 10 of their friends, or they could post it in a Facebook group, or who knows what. But people really forget that after you get the sale, like the value that you can get out of that one sale is like huge in the back end. If you can get that person to like read the book, love the book, talk about the book. So like the word of mouth is just, it's really important to your sales funnel.
Super cool. And like, so do you ever feel like sometimes someone says something that's like really, really helpful, but also super simple, and you're like, geez, like that's so simple. I can't believe I never thought of it that way. And that's the feeling I'm getting right now, because the attitude that I've had previously up until this morning, up until right now, was, oh, I'll put the books out there and then maybe send a little bit of traffic to my Amazon page and cross my fingers and hope for the best. And the way that you're explaining it, it's like you treat it like any other product, right? Like you said that you sell courses, and it's like, it sounds like you look at it from the mindset of as if you were selling that course, and then you do the same sort of traffic methods and the same, warming them up, taking them through the funnel. It's just a super low ticket product, which is your book. And I can't believe I never thought of it in those sorts of terms. Like I would think like, okay, any traffic I'd send, maybe I'd send it to the Amazon page and that's it. But it sounds like, so you're saying that for like, if we have a book out there, that we should have a website, we should be building a list, we should have like a sequence, we should be doing all these things that we do with any other website, but do it specifically for our book.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it is a low ticket product. So the reality of that is that, the lower the ticket product, the more you want to automate it, right? Which is the same, which is true of like any digital product. So it's not like you want to like be hand holding someone through this. You want to put those marketing materials into place at each stage. And then the second thing I'd add to that is that your book, especially if you're writing nonfiction, your book should lead to something much bigger. So like all of my books, they lead to my courses, because again, like that initial sale is like a very small piece of the value that I can actually get from that action, if that makes sense. Because it's like I don't want someone to just buy my book. I want them to read my book and then like love it and want to work with me more. And so they're interested in my course. And so I think in addition to mapping out that customer experience, you also want to map out where does your book fall into your product flow and like how customers flow through your business. And really, if you map that out, I mean, the book is kind of like a tripwire. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. Yeah. But the a tripwire is like a small thing that moves someone from free to being a customer. So you've got that book reader. They are a customer of yours. And so like you want to do everything you can to get them to read that book, get them on your email list, and show them like other relevant offers. And so also be thinking of that. And this could not be more true for the nonfiction people, because, and also if you're listening to this and you have nonfictions, you have like digital products or whatever you have, you should really think about doing a book. And the reason why is that book gives you access to ad platforms that you cannot get access to without a book. So Amazon has a newish program. It's probably like 2 or 3 years old, called Amazon Marketing Services, and they will let you advertise your book on their platform. So so we all know that Google is the biggest search engine, and then most people know that YouTube is the second biggest search engine, and it happens to be owned by Google. But the third biggest search engine in the entire world is Amazon. And like people don't know that. And if you Google any sort of like book title or anything that sounds like it could be a book title, the Amazon links are going to be like right up there in the first couple of results. So it's actually, the book is an amazing way it's an amazing customer acquisition tool.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you're making all kinds of light bulbs going off for me. So what you're saying is we need to be looking at this Amazon Marketing Services thing so that we can run ads to our book, because otherwise we're ignoring the third largest search engine. If we have a book in place, we need to create something higher ticket, some sort of a course, a membership site, something like that. So that way we're not just spending all day long making 99-cent and $3.99 sales. And then also the opposite is true too. So if you guys out there and gals are selling, $1,000 stuff, $50 stuff, then you need to have this book to capture those extra people in the funnel. So yeah, this is really great. And yeah, just like as we're talking, like I said, like the number one thing I'm hearing here is that we need to not treat a book like something that's so different. Like there's different platforms, they have different, special rules and different opportunities and things like that. But at the end of the day, the book needs to be a part of our funnel and needs to hook into the rest of our business. It can't just be some separate little hobby off to the side. And so yeah, I can't believe that I missed this, but now you have you to set me straight and everyone else listening too. So so I want to make sure that, so if people, heard this episode and they got a lot of value of it, they got a bunch of ahas. I know that I did personally, so I'm sure that people out there got their own special set of ahas. Can you share with us what sort of things you have going on, how we can look into what you're doing, your courses, your books, any sort of links, URLs you want to share here today?
Yeah, really everything that I'm doing is at theworldneedsyourbook.com. And, the stuff that I have in place right now. So like I said, I'm expanding my books to really include some of the information that I've said here. Cause this is, I think honestly, not a lot of people have really put this together yet. And so that is part of my message, really just what I shared today, that, coaches, entrepreneurs, internet marketers, they should really be looking at this, this opportunity in books much more carefully than they probably are right now. And then other than that, I really, I have my Book Plus Biz Bootcamp. It's launching in May of 2018. And then I also have like a higher ed mastermind for that. And then of course, like little, I have books and I have like smaller self-study courses as well. But you can find it all at theworldneedsyourbook.com.
Super cool. So theworldneedsyourbook.com. And then on that site, is there an easy way for people to get on your list and subscribe to you? That way, when you have these other things coming out, like the boot camp and the mastermind, that way they'll be notified of those things?
Yeah. There's an opportunity. I think it's under like free gifts. So I'm kind of cleaning up my website right now, but I'll definitely make that prominent.
Super cool. So wherever the design lands, make sure that you go to theworldneedsyourbook.com and find around for some of those free gifts. I mean, who doesn't want free gifts anyway? So sign up for those free gifts. That way you'll get notified of the latest and greatest stuff from Monica. And what I'm getting from our conversation today is like we all have to be looking out for what's on the cutting edge with whatever cool stuff, Amazon or whatever other, online book publishers kind of edge in there. We need to be on the cutting edge, because if we're not, then everyone else is going to rush in there and eat our lunch, and it'll get too crowded. And not to say that, once it's crowded, then the party's over, but we need to be on the cutting edge now. So that way, once everyone else rushes in, they're way behind us as far as their progress. And then we can get on the cutting edge again. And then they'll have to play catch up with us again and again while we reap the benefits of all these great programs that Amazon gives us early adopters. So theworldneedsyourbook.com is where you need to go right here, right now. And we'll see you there, theworldneedsyourbook.com. And thanks, Monica, for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please take a second to rate and subscribe to Marketer of the Day in the iTunes Store. It's free. marketeroftheday.com/iTunes.